Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the TheP-LotPodcast. John here, joined once again by the main man himself, Michael Angelillo, who is wearing a Phillies hat today, which I can take a very educated guess as to why. There's a lot of big news in football today. One of those teams being your Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah, man. Since we
Rough
did the
weekend.
show,
Rough weekend. Um,
well, the games were very exciting. The playoff games were very good for the most part. Outside the Eagle game, I would say after the Eagle game, they turned into blowouts. The Charger Patriot game, like
it
if you
wasn't great, but it
if
wasn't
you loved watching
egregious.
Justin Herbert getting sacked and hit very hard, that was the game for you. And then Monday, we just watched elder abuse occur.
Yeah, we'll get into each game individually. Um, but yeah, wearing the Phillies hat today. You know, like great athletes in this city, like Bryce Harper and Jalen Hurts. The things I do are intentional. Um, Nothing is done off a whim. And it is symbolic. The leaf is turning. The football team is over. The season is over. Maybe I should be wearing a winter sports team. Maybe I should be wearing a Sixers hat. But um, with the Eagles season being over, we're not going to today, but it will open up the door to talk more about the winter teams, the Flyers, the Philadelphia 76ers, and the stories that they got going on throughout the course of the season. A little bit more into baseball off season, but again, not for today's episode. Today's episode will be strictly football. And yeah, I guess we should start with the Eagles game and the resulting factors that have come, the byproducts post that Eagles game and what's happened. So the Eagles lost at home to the San Francisco 49ers 23-19. And I don't find myself as upset about this one as much as I find myself frustrated. I think frustrated is pretty much the only emotion that I do feel. Annoyance, those sort of feelings. Less sadness, less devastation, and more just just frustrated, annoyed, irritated, all of it, infuriated. Because the way they lost John is deep down the way we all knew that they would lose the pretty much the entire season. The defense wasn't perfect, and the offense couldn't bail them out, and that's pretty much it. Not that the defense played poorly, although there was some aspects of it that I wish were definitely better, but it's not that they played poorly. It's just that they weren't perfect. We saw that throughout the course of the season against good teams that they had to be perfect, and they won games that way. Think of the Packers game. You think of the Lions game. You think of most of the Buffalo Bills game. And then you think about some of their losses and even some of their wins where they weren't so perfect and the games were a little bit more ugly, but maybe the offense got a few things going their way a little bit better. Ultimately, defense wasn't perfect. Offense was what it was all season long, and they come up short and they lose and are one and dones. They don't even win a playoff game. I think the most surprising thing of it all is that we didn't expect it to come round one. I think we all felt pretty confident that they would be able to get to the divisional, and the shock comes from the fact that they lost the home playoff game to a far inferior opponent, and that is what also
Well,
makes it super
the
frustrating.
players are inferior. The
Yeah.
coaches are not.
Yeah, they definitely have Vic Fangio's great, and he usually does well against Shanahan offenses. I'm not saying he got out diced here and
No,
there.
I'm not saying that either. I say I think the Shanahan Sala coaching combo
Oh my God,
added
blows
added
the
with
Eagles out of the water.
good. I mean, let's face it, Michael. If Fred Warner and Nick Bosa were healthy, and I know it's if man or if no, it's true. If their best players were healthy, then they probably would have gotten the one seed, and we would have gotten smoked.
Yeah, full stop. We would have gotten killed. it's frustrating. You want to go into the X's and O's of it all and the fourth down plays and the drops and you know, lack of quarterback runs, and it's all valid, it's all true, but it's not anything new. John, this started week 1. This has been going on since the first game of the season. We chalked it up to a lightning delay, throwing everything off in the opener against Dallas. But little did we know is that that's just genuinely what they were. They were able to start well and move some things down, move the ball down the field, put some points on the board, and look good doing it. And then the second half rolls around, and it's a mix of getting ultra conservative, getting in the turtle shell, and becoming highly predictable. And that displayed throughout the entire season, outside of like a handful of games, maybe like 4 games all year, where they put together a complete offensive performance, probably less, more like 2 or 3. Um, and they become stagnant. Some pretty jarring stats is that the Eagles had a negative 46 point differential in the fourth quarter all season, and they averaged less than 10 points per game in the second half of games all season long. That is ridiculous. When you're a good team, when you're a Super Bowl contender, when you're a veteran team like this that's been in these big games before, the way that those teams are meant to win is by playing well and raising their level of play as the stakes of the game gets higher, meaning in the second half of games, in the fourth quarter, you're supposed to be flexing your muscles and showing why you're the better team and why you're supposed to be this great contender, and you're supposed to put games away or come from behind if you're trailing. And the fact of the matter is that the Eagles could not put games away all season long. It was a problem of theirs where they would just win by virtue of their defense getting enough stops in a row. And even in some cases, quarterbacks on the other team missing wide open guys in order to beat you, like Josh Allen and the Bills. So we shouldn't be surprised. We're really not surprised. But ultimately, it's just really infuriating that once again, they were able to get a lead and they couldn't just score one more time, which likely would have put so many other games out of reach this year. And instead, just continued to go 3 and out, continued to punt, continued to stall. And you give a great coach like Kyle Shanahan with some good skill position players and a solid little quarterback, you give them enough opportunities, they're going to burn you. They're going to eventually
Well,
get
that's
you. And they
see. Here's the funny thing. You just mentioned that Shanahan down 7+ points in the fourth quarter. His record is abysmal,
Yeah,
and the Eagles just became the first team that allowed them to basically do that. Like that was the first time they trailed in the fourth quarter in like a meaningful game. And I think the Lions are the other team that allowed that to happen. I believe maybe it was the Lions a
that
couple
might have
years.
the comeback might have happened sooner.
I
Might
think the
be
comeback
third
happens
quarter.
sooner. In other words, like the Niners are the team that you if you're up 2 possessions on them in the fourth quarter, like you just keep staying aggressive because they're going to find ways to screw it up for themselves. And the Eagles didn't do that. I mean, it's just a fact, man. Like and look, like AJ had a really bad game. AJ Brown, a lot of drops.
Probably his worst game as an Eagle.
Probably just right as the worst game as Neil. He looked very like flummoxed, and the people that don't like AJ Brown, you mentioned like the net, like you mentioned before I hit record. The Negadelphians, the negative Philly people. It's sort of like the people that don't like AJ Brown don't like Joel Embiid. They don't like you know name someone the Phillies they don't like.
Aaron Nola.
Aaron Nola. They don't
Yeah.
like. It's like I think they hear from like WIP them trash a player, and they just kind of like it's like a hive mind, because
Absolutely.
like I had a lot of people go up to me. They're like, "Oh, I'm gonna get rid of AJ Brown." I'm like, "Cool." I say, "Cool." Who are you gonna replace him with? And they're like, "Well, what do you mean?" I'm like, "So you want Jahan Dotson or Darius Cooper to be the starting wide receiver next year, make the offense worse?"
Yeah,
Ugh.
it's any like actual wanting AJ Brown off the team. It's disingenuous. Cap situation aside, it just isn't a smart football thing to do. Listen, he definitely needs to get back to his form a little bit. We can't shy away from the fact that he had a down year, and part of it looked like explosiveness wise. And you saw it a little bit, you saw it on Sunday night, Sunday afternoon. Couple deep balls, one that he didn't really dive for, maybe a couple years ago or last year's a little bit faster and gets to it anyways. The other one that hit off, he had multiple drops that hit off his hands, are very catchable balls that we got accustomed to watching him catch everything all the time. And, it wasn't the first game that he had drops this year. So, it's fine to be rightfully frustrated with him, but I don't think the best course of action is to move off from him. And I think the team hopefully knows that. Um, but yeah, man, I mean, the true story, like the players didn't play well, but that's kind of the whole thing here is that this offensive scheme and the poorness of it and the predictability aspect of it, it relies on perfect execution every play in order for it to really be flourishing. And you might think, oh, that's obvious, everything. There is not one piece of the puzzle that can be off, or else the entire operation is absolutely ruined. You have a throw that's a little off, or a drop that's had, or a pre-snap penalty, or a holding penalty, or a run that goes for negative yards or gets stuffed at the line, and the entire drive is cooked. I mean, Jalen Hurts gets sacked for a 1 yard loss on the final drive at the 20-yard line, and it's 2nd and 11. We should have all known that the game was over. The entire stadium could have been let out right then and there. They weren't converting that. It's not a new thing that they lost a yard on a predictable run to Saquon or anything like that, and the drive would be over. And when you, as an offensive play caller and an offensive mind, as a coaching staff, have no answers to when one little thing goes wrong, it's not a good offense. Not that you needed more evidence to show you that the offense was bad, but every single time the Eagles got behind the sticks, drives were cooked, drives were over because of either getting way too passive and trying to run the ball on 2nd and long for even less yards, and then your third down play is just curls at the sticks and you hope that something is open. It was way too predictable. They're running the same play in a row, flipping the formation, or literally the same exact formation, same exact play, back to back plays. Like, it's just something that they never got better at. They were under center 7 times in the second half on Sunday, and they ran the ball all 7 times. That is an embarrassment. When the Eagles were under center, they ran the ball like 75% of the time, and when they were in shotgun, they ran the ball only 33% of the time. When you have those sort of splits and defenses can quite literally just guess what you're running every time, guessing it's a pass, guessing it's a run, and they're going to be right almost every time, it almost doesn't even matter what the scheme looks like. You're already just tying one hand behind your back and at times two hands behind your back, trying to build out a sustainable offense. The offensive line was garbage all year. All the skill players had a bit of a down year. The quarterback had a down year. And not once did the coaching staff really take a look at the operation and think something needs to change, or we need to curate it better to what we have going for us right now. A.J. Brown said it all season long, and the arrogance and the just lack of accountability from the head coach and the offensive coaching staff led them down this road where they thought that because they were winning games, they could just keep doing it like this and it would all end in sunshine and rainbows. Where every week you're asking Vic Fangio, hey man, I need 7 straight stops in the second half to get out of this game. Thanks. And it worked for a lot of part of the season. But towards the end, we saw it start to not. And once again, it didn't. And it killed you. It drowned you. It ended your season. And that's why we're sitting here disappointed on a Tuesday evening.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I don't want to go too much into like the whole season, all the how bad the offense is. We've spent hours upon
The
hours
whole year, it's nothing
talking
new.
about it, and like it's I hate to say it, dude. It's like it's kind of like with the Phillies last couple years. We talk about the offense, how inconsistent it is. They get to the playoffs and they can't hit. You know, we talk
Yeah,
about
it was very, very similar. It's like the
this. We
Sixers.
talked about the Sixers when they with under Doc. You know how bad the rotations were,
Yeah,
how many minutes Joel was playing, and then he gets to the playoffs and Joel gets hurt, or you know
you lose his minutes by 20 points when he's off the floor, and you're
because
losing.
you don't have an offense, like you don't have a functioning unit, like bench units to how to handle it when he's not on the court. You know,
Right,
I'd love to say something about the Flyers playoff inept like failures, but there hasn't really been any recently because they just can't. They suck. You know,
right,
and I
right.
love them to
But
death, but like they've
it's
been.
true. It's true. The Eagles. It was the same story as all those other teams, and it's frustrating, man. But
And I think what makes it
really,
most frustrating of all is this is the way I kind of talk about the Eagles compared to the other teams. If the Philadelphia sports teams were children, like your children, the Eagles are the one that has its life together. And like you expect the other kids to screw up, but the Eagles like got a DUI and crashed their car and now they have their license suspended for a year and you're like, "Holy crap, what the hell happened?"
yeah, it's frustrating too because over this era of Eagles football, obviously you get the same faces are around, and all the players you draft are all playing together. And this is like definitely going to be the last year before the first like big wholesale change to this core is going to be made. You got it's not a ton of guys, but it's some integral guys that they're just not going to be able to keep all of them. Dallas Goedert, Reed Blankenship, Nakobe Dean, and then like Jalen Phillips as well as a guy that really made a mark in his short stint here. Those guys are all free agents, and they're definitely not all going to be back. And it just sucks, man. It sucks every time you waste a year because it is a waste. You waste a year
Well, the Eagles
of
have cap space. I trust Howie
it's
manipulating
just
the
it
cap.
sucks when you waste a year of your age primed stars and your aging, you know, Hall of Fame offensive linemen. And it really blows that you had a defense that was as good as it was all season long and really was coming together, and you just took a massive dump on it.
It
You didn't
feels like
care to
over the
make any
years,
changes.
especially Michael, with the Eagles, whenever they had like a really good defense, they would go extremely far in the playoffs or go as far as to win the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, I mean, I saw the stat the last 10 years. There's only one team that did not have a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense at the same time to win the Super Bowl. It was the 2015 Denver Broncos.
Yeah, with obviously a bad offense. This is definitely the first time in my lifetime where the Eagles defense was actually like the significantly better unit, and it drowned your uh team because of it. The next closest is really 2018, which we said earlier in the season. I know I said it like a couple times that people were like, "Oh, this feels like 2023." And the truth is that to me it always felt like 2018, where the team was still good and there was enough good players to kind of replicate what you did the year before, but for whatever reason something just felt a little off on the offensive side of the ball. And shocker, the offensive coordinators left, and one of the head coaches good buddies got promoted and things went
It
bad.
does really, dude. To me, it definitely feels like, and I kind of, we're gonna go into the Patullo firing more, but I want to bring this up. Doesn't it feel like, in general, when teams promote offensive coordinators internally, more often than not, those like fall apart when the head coach isn't some offensive mastermind. And to me, there's only really like two offensive masterminds over the last 10 years that have proven themselves to like, well, actually, I'm going to say three, actually. Andy Reid, Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan. Then there's everybody else after that. And
Mhm.
that's not, I'm not taking a shot at Nick Sirianni for that because they've shown that they can win despite that. But the idea of like I feel like you look at a lot of these guys who got fired, they were promoted internally, like, and a lot of these available candidates out there right now, they weren't internal promotions when they were offensive coordinators themselves, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
I get your point that like when the head coach isn't such a strong weapon and a strong mind, the internal hires tend to really blow back in your face. And we're on the second, iteration of that with the Eagles where we know the head coach isn't like the genius here. We know that the head
well, if the
coach
head
has,
coach is supposed to be this organization CEO type guy, and like we're hearing a lot about. I guess we'll go into the Patullo firing. Uh, if you've been living under a rock for the last 5 hours, the Eagles have fired their offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo. I'm hearing all these stories about how incompetent he was from what we behind the scenes. Like we obviously know on the field, they underachieved like massively because of coaching. Um, you remember all those leaks that came out, and we were like, "Who's the source?" The apparently, according to Richard Sherman, I saw that clip. I guess I'm going to play this clip from Richard Sherman on Nick Foles' podcast. And listen, Richard Sherman, whether you like him or hate him, he's someone who will most certainly has no fear of expressing his mind or
no, and
what
being
he's
and
heard.
being honest. Yeah.
I'm trying to scroll up to pull this clip up, Michael, but Twitter's DMs are so bad. Oh wait,
Well,
I got it. Okay, wait. Okay. Now this guy, this mostly Eagle tweets guy, he's like very much like Crypto Mori, where it's like crazy takes. Like he will literally, it's, I don't know. He probably thinks like the moon landing wasn't real, you know? Anyway, I'm just gonna, I see some of his stuff. All right, this is from Nick Foles' podcast, which is a pretty good podcast. Let me know if you can hear the audio.
that's good.
Kevin Patullo. So he reached out and he's like, people are just so hard on me and it's not my fault. And they don't understand the inner workings. And it's like, Kevin, we get it. We get it. But when you're the offensive coordinator with great power comes great responsibility and great burden and accountability. And so
back to, I just keep thinking about you saying this Eagles team is going to get to the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about Jalen Hurts tonight because they won. His stats look okay. He's been playing great statistically. Looks good. Passer rating. I walk out of this game with not a ton of confidence there in the way that he's playing right now.
And has been there the whole time, and so he does have a intimate knowledge of these football players, an intimate knowledge of Jalen Hurts and what makes him tick and how he processes things, and so he is continuing to grow this year as an offensive coordinator. Have there been some missteps? Yeah, there definitely have, but I think with coaches as well, you have to continue to see, like we mentioned with Caleb Williams, you have to continue to see that growth. And for him, it's this season. We have to continue to see that offense grow and for him to make the necessary changes in the second half of a football game to get this team to be successful.
Yeah. So if Ryan Fitzpatrick is close with Patullo and Patullo tells him all these sort of things, then yeah, maybe it does seem like Patullo could have been the guy that Jalen doesn't run the place like he runs in practice and
Listen,
wants,
and this is beyond football. Like friend of the show, Mac was talking about this too, about the human element as opposed to football. Like it wasn't cool to go egg his house. Like I'm sure like his kids probably get harassed at school all the time. Like my dad.
Yeah, no, I'm sure Kevin Patullo is a great guy. Like the guys in the locker room wouldn't vouch for him if he was also like an asshole. You know what I mean? Like if Devontae Smith or Jordan Mailata or Saquon all deep down actually think that like, oh yeah, Patullo, he wasn't good. And even though in their interviews they say he was great all year, it's on the players. Like we knew all those guys were going to say something like that. But even if deep down they do believe he isn't good, like the fan, if they have a similar mindset to what the fans are thinking, they would say it more bluntly if Patullo, if they felt he wasn't a good guy, if they felt that he was like, just rude or put too much, like, blaming the players in interviews. Like if he was kind of airing out in that sort of way and was, abusive's not the right word, but like toxic, I guess is more the right word. If he was like that and the players felt he was like that, I don't think they would have stuck out their necks for him after the season was over and another, bad offensive performance. I think they would have been a little more like Jalen was, honestly, where he was like, it's too soon to say anything about him coming back. Like any answer that's not yes, I want the coach back next year is a no to me. Any sort of like when Lamar said, "Oh, we just lost the game. How are you going to ask me about that?" That means no. Like that means I don't want John Harbaugh back. So Jalen saying it's way too soon. I can't say anything on that. That's his way of saying no. I do not want him back as the offensive coordinator, and that's what we got here. So I think maybe Jalen didn't like him a ton, but I do think in the general
Why
vibe of
would
that
Jalen
locker
like him
room,
if he's
exactly, if he's potentially the leak, right? So if the general vibe in the locker room is that most guys got along with him, most guys liked him, and the coaches liked him, I can see like he's a good guy, but the football mind of it all, it was just an immature coaching prowess. It was an immature ability to call plays, all of it. And it all just kind of added up here
I
and
see. And I mean,
got
listen.
us here.
I mean, ultimately, this is Nick Sirianni's fault, and you saw the Eagles tweet out the quote from Nick Sirianni,
Mhm.
basically saying like, look, you vouched for this guy, you brought this guy over, you gave him this opportunity, and this is what happened. And I think, and we don't know why maybe they were so hell bent on making KP the offensive coordinator, because this is the
Mhm.
result. And now if like the GM has to now go out and find the next OC, And they're probably going to
Yeah.
make some other, and they're going to make some other coaching changes as well. I would not be surprised. This is going to be a unique situation because the OC, I think, is going to have definitely more say on maybe some of the coaches on the staff. You saw it last year with Kellen Moore bringing Nussmeier with him to Philadelphia, like he did in Dallas, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We will definitely, I think, see something like that. This is if they do keep Nick Sirianni, which it does seem like he's going to be here. It does feel like this was kind of the last straw in terms of letting him actually potentially like, and I hope, we won't really know this until the offensive coordinator hire, but it does feel like this is the last time he's going to be able to put his hands in the cookie jar in how they
Or
operate
at
the
the very
offense.
least, if Sirianni said, "Hey, look, I'm not confident anybody on our staff to be the offensive coordinator," to Howie, and was like, "Hey, maybe we should look outwards. Like, hey, like I'm good friends with
It's just a matter on
like
what are they
Todd
going to
Monk, and I'm
run?
good buddies with him."
Are they going to run whose offense are they running? Because you are destined to fail if you are instructed to run Nick Sirianni's offense. Because we talked about this after the game or
Well,
whatever.
Steichen and Moore ran the offense, and then when Moore had it, Saquon Barkley
Let's just
broke an
hypothetical
NFL
here.
record, most rushing.
Let's say last year, last year's team had this offensive line, this quality of offensive line, this health of offensive line, and give this year's team the same offensive line as last year. I have a very there's an inkling in me, John, that's saying that this year's team would have went a lot further if they had last year's offensive line. I really do believe that. I think that, the passing game wasn't, it was obviously a lot better than this year, but it really wasn't, it was still frustrating at times. It still had problems. It wasn't good in the Packers game and in the Rams playoff games. Like it wasn't a good unit. It struggled in the Panthers game. There was a lot of games that the passing game was poor and that they got carried by a great running attack. And that's awesome. That's very important. So I think they went into this year assuming they could kind of lean on that, do the same thing, and the bad offensive line plays ultimately would drown them. So if you had a great offensive line, Do I think they would have broke the rushing record or whatever? No. But do I think they would have, if Saquon would have had a much better season? Absolutely. Do I think they would have won more games because of it? Absolutely. Would they have won Sunday because of it? Absolutely. So while I do think Kellen Moore is significantly better than Kevin Patullo, the offensive passing game still had these moments and ruts of poor play that I really think that no offensive coordinator is going to be able to really effectively get the most out of this roster if they're running Nick Sirianni's offense.
What about Shane Steichen?
Maybe it might be outdated though. Like Shane Steichen was great at it, but that was 3 years ago. I don't know if Sirianni's scheme is going to work as much. I do think those Steichen is probably the only guy because of the route tendency differences. Like everyone loves the hitch crosser graph for the Eagles, and in 2021 and 2022, they were about league average, a little above league average in running hitch routes, and that just absolutely went through the roof in 2023 and 2024, and obviously this year it's like historically high. So clearly, there isn't, Shane Steichen didn't have an addiction to it the way that the other offensive play callers kind of did. So I do think in the post Steichen world, the offense got molded a little bit more in the hands of Nick Sirianni. And I think that, it's kind of been to the detriment. I think moving forward, the next offensive coordinator, I'd really like it to just kind of be their offense. And we keep talking about the Ravens and Todd Monken and John Harbaugh, whatever. The deal that the Ravens made John Harbaugh was basically like your hands are out of the pot. It was genuinely CEO, head coach, overseer, handling all that stuff. The only thing is that John Harbaugh was pretty good at picking coordinators. And I think that if they do hire Todd Monken or whoever, I would like it to be their offense, and Sirianni
I think
really
that's
has
what I
little
mean.
say in it.
Honestly, Michael, the fact they try to bring Stefanski as the rumor is going to bring in as a consultant, that's to me like when they brought Fangio in as a consultant
in 2022, which, by the way, they tried to hire, or they would have hired to be their defensive coordinator had they known that Jonathan Gannon was going to leave. And I think that would have been a similar mold of we're hiring Stefanski as a consultant with the implication that you were going to be the OC when Patullo is gone. And, we'll see how the interview process, we'll see when they start requesting interviews for guys. But yeah, as a fan moving forward, I think, you're going to have, I think, a brand new tight end room next season. And outside of that, on the offensive side of the ball, I want maybe some fresh blood in the interior offensive line, and I want an offensive coordinator that it's going to be their offense.
When the Eagles kind of, dude, maybe the Eagles are like the 2010s, like San Francisco Giants, where it's like championship, bad down season, championship, bad down season, championship, bad down season.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you ask me this from afar, asked me 7 years ago saying, Michael, starting in 2021, we're going to alternate from a frustrating, disappointing season and a Super Bowl appearance. Are you going to sign up for that? I mean, you'd have to take it. So we're living through it, and maybe we're spoiled to complain this much, but I think it's justified.
I think we are a little spoiled, but I think though the thing is that
there's a difference between being stuck in the land of sucking forever and having something that is actually really great and has so much potential and all this talent and ability, and you just
I think
throw it on the ground.
I think what frustrates you and it frustrates me is that let's say the Eagles win the Super Bowl next year. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, the Eagles just aren't a dynasty. And you would love to just once in your lifetime be
able to say
that we saw something like that, like the Flyers had their run in the 70s, the Broad Street Bullies, right? The Phillies, unfortunately, the Phillies have never had a dynasty.
I hear what you're saying. Like, if you want to be a dynasty and compare yourself to Kansas City at all, it takes a little more than Super Bowl wins. You are great every year. You don't have these off years where everyone wants to go gouge their eyes out every week. And you hope that you magically fix it the following season. And it's great if you do, but no, the Chiefs were in what, 8 straight conference championship games, all the Super Bowl appearances. It's you want to be a dynasty, there's still an opportunity. You just need to, like, if it turns into Super Bowl appearance, wild card loss, Super Bowl win, wild card loss, Super Bowl win, Super Bowl appearance, like if it's that, then you can extend it a little bit. But they got a lot of work to do. They need to build things for multiple years in a row instead of having these disappointing breaks.
Yeah, and we're going to obviously talk more about the Eagles OC search. I don't think that we'll have one hired by Saturday.
Definitely
I would
not. You'd be
shocked.
Yeah.
But I will say this. Right now, if I had to guess who it is, I would say it's Todd Monken, because we saw yesterday that he had an interview lined up with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I'm going to consult Google for this, because you were really young when this happened. This guy, basically, we keep mentioning Todd Monken. He's essentially the offensive coordinator equivalent to Vic Fangio. Fair to say?
Yeah.
Vic's
like the closest thing to it. Like, I don't know if Todd Monken is as good as Vic Fangio is, but it's an older guy that seemingly could have had opportunities to become a head coach if he wanted to, and for whatever reason isn't getting the opportunities really to get the job. And we'll see how long it lasts, but it does feel like he's a little more content to just be an OC, as he has offensive coordinator interviews with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So like he's interviewing for roles that would be lateral to what he has now.
Right. So this is where I feel like I think he's the fit, is because, one, you're not worried about him bouncing after a year to be a head coach.
Yeah.
He's 59 years old. I don't think he fits the mold of teams wanting. You saw what happened with the Raiders this year with Pete Carroll. I don't think old
head coaches aren't doing it much. Well,
right.
And listen, we'll see some old ones get hired potentially, with Harbaugh and Stefan and
Tomlin.
Tomlin getting canned / moved off on, which we'll get to. But
right, I think we'll get to that later. I just think, you saw what he did with Lamar. Like, Lamar has had his most successful seasons as a quarterback under Todd Monken.
He would have been the offensive coordinator of, if they did the right thing, back-to-back MVPs. And that's very impressive, And
I'm not throwing shade at Lamar, but you saw what happened to Lamar when the Greg Roman offense was stale. You were going on the show saying, "Oh, John, he's an S-tier quarterback," and I'm like, doesn't look like it based off what I've watched of him lately. And it's because the offense sucked.
Yeah, the passing concepts were not good, and but Todd Monken gets there, and the passing concepts get a lot better, even though the receiving room isn't all that great. And knows how to operate with a quarterback with legs, and when to run and when it's effective. And the Ravens have led pretty great offenses the last 3 years. Obviously, this year is a tough one, injury riddle with a lot of bad vibes.
Yeah,
around.
but that head coach still scored a lot of points. It's just their defense was bad, Michael.
Yeah, you saw what they did, with backup quarterbacks in there too. So there's reason to believe that Todd Monken's scheme would favor well to what the Eagles have to offer, and the talent upgrade on the offensive side of the ball that they would have over Baltimore, I think, would lend itself to a great offense. And if the reports have some truth to them that Jalen doesn't love to run as much and would like to not run as much, I think Todd Monken's going to be the guy that's not going to be like Brian Dable and say, you're running and you're going to run hard and, lower your shoulder. But I do think that Todd Monken is going to have a ability to get through to Jalen of the importance of him running. And
and from
whether you like it or not, I'm going to be calling it.
Didn't want Todd Monken to go. He just wanted Harbaugh to go.
Right. And listen, Todd Monken might not go. It all depends on who the next head coach is. I think that there's a lot of these coordinators and position coaches that are kind of in limbo with head coaching vacancies, because it wasn't, we're firing Harbaugh and the entire staff, they're all gone and free to go. It's, there's going to be a new head coach in there that's going to choose.
Another thing too, I know he didn't coach these guys because they're on different sides of the ball. Tom Monken had a lot of coaching success with the University of Georgia.
Yeah. So it's there's an opportunity there, and I think it's something that's worth looking into and worth definitely making that a big swing. I think that would be a really nice fit and potentially also build out some continuity. And listen, if whoever they hire at the offensive coordinator, they're going to have their say with position coaches and sector coordinators like a running game coordinator, Pat. Like they're going to have their say on all that sort of stuff. So you'd like to think that there's some guys that might not be brought back that are here already, but that'll all remain to be seen. It'll be interesting. We're going to start seeing the reports and the names that come out that they're going to be interviewing, and lists are going to narrow and all that sort of stuff, and we'll find out. But I do think that he had to go, Patullo. That is, he definitely had to go, and it's nice that they got it done now instead of even waiting a week because they give themselves an opportunity to really get out on these interviews and start scheduling them because it's important. It's a very
Yeah,
important.
because it felt like with Brian Johnson, Kellen Moore was always the guy.
It took 8 days, and like we said, the offense was just a lot better in 2023. It had reason to be like, it wasn't great, but maybe he can get better. Whereas this was like, we are at ground zero, and it would be nearly God's miracle if the play calling all of a sudden got better. So they knew it was time to move on. They did. And yeah, we'll see what players are back. We'll see what players aren't back. We'll see what new OC they bring in. And yeah, we'll be back talking Eagles football at a later date. That's
Yeah.
it.
And then
So
okay,
let's get into wild
let's get
card
the Eagle
weekend.
game. I don't think we have to talk about that at all.
Yeah, we talked about the Eagle game. Let's start with Saturday afternoon. The Los Angeles Rams played a great game with the Carolina Panthers, and the Rams ultimately coming out on top at a 34-31 victory. The Panthers, I mean, they showed a lot of grit all season, a lot of fight all season. I think we thought this was a spot they just weren't going to be able to get up for based on how they played the last 2 games of the regular season. But lo and behold, they got up for it. Bryce Young played a lot better than he had recently, and the defense at times played some stingy football, even though they gave
It
up
was that like
34
under
points.
500 team, gritty performance.
Yeah.
Just fell short against a far superior team. Yeah,
a tough one, man.
I mean, look, like Mike Jackson played out of his mind.
Shout out Mike Jackson, really
Played out of his mind. Great interception. Like they pretty much did as much as they possibly could to prevent Puka Nakua from, having like 200 plus yards. He had 2 tutties, but they it felt like they didn't let the other guys get too much involved until obviously like the very end.
And we could also say what it was too. Like Matthew Stafford did not play a good game for most of this game. He had a nice last drive where the Panthers got soft on defense, but
he completed like
struggled.
30% of his passes after the first
10. He
quarter
went
and a
like 9 for 9 or whatever, and then it was like brutal.
Most likely
and-
hurt his hand because it looked
He was
bad.
getting hit all day. He was really getting hit all day, and he struggled a little bit. He put together a nice drive at the end, but it's this trend of coaches getting conservative, especially on the defensive side of the ball. It feels a lot more like painful to watch.
Oh my, Michael, I was just about to say,
Even Vic Fangio does this, even he
as
does
soon
this.
as I saw JC Horn lined off 20 yards off of Puka Nakua, I was thinking to myself, I had the cash out button ready. I don't normally do this. I'm like, they're going to lose this game because they're going to play soft and then they're going to score because they're just going to be this is like a very much a boomer saying the prevent defense prevents you from winning.
But it's true, man. I mean, Fangio does it all.
But here's the thing: that's not really a prevent defense. A prevent defense is on like a Hail Mary play. You got
listen, it's not prevent, but they just went soft. Like all game, they're playing tight man coverage and single high safety, and they're just getting in the grill of these Rams receivers and not giving them an opportunity to get into their
Definitely
good
taking
schemes.
advantage of like the playoffs, the refs
They
swallow
were
their
physical. They
whistles.
brought all of it. And then on the
You know,
final drive,
obviously in the Eagle game, they didn't swallow the whistles on,
well, they did. They swallowed a lot of whistles the Eagle game. But yeah, the the Panthers got soft in a little cover 4 shell, and they just got picked apart and lost the game because of it. Really tough loss for the Panthers. This would have been a really cool win for them. Um, but, they were long shots. They gave a very admirable effort. And if you're a Rams fan, I think you just got to be thinking, thank God we got out of there. Um, but we got to play better moving forward against this team. The Chicago Bears defeated the Green Bay Packers in what was a classic 25 points scored in the fourth quarter. The Bears trailed by 18, put 25 up in the fourth, and came from behind and got a huge win. We're looking at a 21-6 score entering the fourth, and the Packers got a little soft the same way the Panthers did a little
a
bit.
little.
Yeah. And Caleb Williams continues to just kind of show off the raw talent and the knack for like the big moments and stuff. Like he's such a bizarre player, where the down to down regular accuracy is inconsistent, sometimes great, sometimes it's terrible. And then when it comes to fourth down and you're rolling to your left and there's a defender about to hit
You
you,
sent me the
you
tweet
whipping
for
it.
this before. The similarities between them and the 2024 Washington Commanders
Yeah,
are.
but I was going to get into that comp in a second. But the ability to just be clutch and make great throws in big spots. It's why you draft a guy as high as you do, even if the perfect fundamental easy throws aren't all there. You take the guy that can do the special stuff because you'd like to think that you can teach the other stuff along. And Caleb, when he's in a rhythm, is really good, and it's really hard to stop, really hard to sack, and they pull off the upset with some great play. Yeah, it was an upset. Pull off the upset and the comeback with some great offensive play design, some great play calls, and Caleb Williams making big plays. That's really, really what it comes down to. And like you mentioned, a lot of uncanny comparisons between the 24 Commanders and the 25 Bears here. Like all the come from behind victories, all the last second miracle wins for like franchises that feel like they never get those and it's finally turning their way. They survive a come from behind victory. They barely escape, and like the Commanders did last year to the Buccaneers, we all remember Baker Mayfield fumbling, trying to run the end around, and it cost them. And we watched the Packers just struggle to move the ball downfield. It was like watching the Eagles, and the Bears came out and stole it. So if history is bound to repeat itself, we're looking at a weird Bears blowout of the Rams this week, the way that the Commanders did to the Lions last year. And then ultimately, unfortunately for Chicago, resulting in what will be a very devastating defeat on the road to the best team out there. But obviously, they got to get to that.
They may not be on the road if the 49ers.
Well, I don't think that's going to happen, but that's for Saturday to yap about. What are your thoughts on any additional thoughts on Bears Packers?
Well, I mean, you talked a lot about the Bears. I guess I'll talk about the Green Bay Packers. I don't want to put this on. You can't put this loss on Jordan Love. I mean, they did the exact same thing we accused the Eagles of all season, where they just literally went to a turtle. They turtle shelled the second half on offense, and they kept forcing it on running the ball every first down. Very predictable play calling. Michael, that Bears defense isn't very good. They lost TJ Edwards, middle of the game. The middle of the field was wide open for the Packers to attack. Jordan Love tied a Packers franchise record for most touchdown passes in a postseason game. He probably should have broken it if they would have kept being aggressive. And yeah, man, like they were like, oh no, we have to have Josh Jacobs. We got to go through Josh Jacobs. I think was kind of the rift between Aaron Rodgers and LaFleur was the amount of conservatism in a lot of these like late games, and
Yeah, I mean, don't you remember the Packer Buccaneer playoff game? Rodgers Brady, 4th and goal from the 8, down 8 points with 2 minutes in the game to go, and they elect to kick the field goal. Like not anything new for Matt LaFleur being conservative, but go ahead.
And I just think that, well, LaFleur, I mean, Love was shaped by LaFleur. And look, Jordan Love, I think, is a very good quarterback, Michael. I think he's definitely a top 10 QB.
He's great, man. He makes a lot of special throws.
And like for a guy that doesn't really have a number one target, I think he's doing a pretty good job. Obviously, the lack of Micah Parsons greatly exposed that Packer defense. They didn't win a single game this year where Micah Parsons either did not play or was unable to finish the game for them. I don't understand the love of Jeff Hafley. I think that's his name, the Packers defense.
The D coordinator.
He was picked as a guy as the number 2 coaching, like future head coaching prospect. I know what you're about to say, like John, they just don't have good players, which is true. But if that's the case, I mean, I was more inspired with what Evero did with the Panthers than
I agree. Listen, I think
he did when he didn't have Michael Parsons. Like at some point, like you just watched, like you just said, like they ran basically soft coverages all through the second half. And when they were getting to Caleb a lot in the first half by applying pressure, creative,
and not giving tight windows and or open windows in coverage. And while I do think Hafley's not like or Hafley, whatever, because it's impressive, when you have obviously Michael Parsons, his big impact, but the defense held up otherwise for the most part.
Every list I've seen, Michael, has Hafley ahead of Brian Flores in terms of head coaching candidates.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if there's something internal about Brian Flores that we don't know about, or if it's just wrong. But yeah, it is interesting. But huge win for the Bears. I really do think they're playing with house money now, even though they're still at home next week against the Rams. I do think it's just like you had a great season, first great season in a while, but it's not fake like with Mitchell Trubisky and Matt Nagy. Like you actually have a brain and an incredible quarterback with Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson. So it definitely feels real, and it all could have been pretty disappointing if it ended in a playoff loss to the Packers, which is what it was looking like for the longest time. But they come from behind in a classic win that I'm sure Bears fans are going to watch the highlights for a very, very long time. This is definitely a meaningful win for them. But they have some bigger fish to fry,
Do you think
and they
Ben
will be playing the
Johnson,
Rams.
whereas like good of a play caller he is, dude? I don't know, man. Like the handshake thing are we making too much of an issue with that, or?
I mean, I think it's not an issue. I just think it's a rivalry, and I think rivalries are good for the sport.
The oldest rivalry in the NFL.
Yeah, it's good when players and coaches, like, it's fun when they don't like each other. Obviously, when it feels like super one-sided, it kind of feels dumb, but Matt LaFleur and Ben Johnson are definitely both little agitators, and I think, back in the days in Detroit, it led to some disdain too, and Ben Johnson just switching to another division opponent, I think it just escalates that hatred for the other teams that you're not like a part of. And he felt he got stiffed by LaFleur in the handshake when the Packers beat them the first time they played. So yelled in his face and tells his players in the locker room how much he effing hates those guys. And like, honestly, great, really cool. I think you earn a little bit more right to do that when you call plays.
This to me, like, kind of look at it from the Eagles side, even though Andy Reid never did that at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's just kind of like too classy to do that. Like
Mhm.
Ben Johnson's trying to get the Bears out of the mindset that we're the Packers' little brother, like the Eagles were the Cowboys' little brother
Sure.
mentality, which I think is good.
Yeah.
The thing is this the moment you start failing and you act like that, everyone's got everyone's just going to bury you. You saw it with Sirianni with his antics when as soon as the Eagles started to fail, everyone was excited to go throw it in his face.
I'm gonna defend Ben Johnson actually. Where I think the disconnect will come and the not I'm sure he'll get some flack for stuff, but I don't think it'll be as much as what Nick Sirianni has. And I think it's because he doesn't call plays. I think it's because people don't feel like he does anything. Like if he's coming off the field screaming in the locker room in the tunnel after he's the orchestrator of a 31-point offensive output, then it's like, okay, you know what, you just did that. Like Ben Johnson, you were being an idiot with all the fourth down calls, but you were cooking up great plays in the fourth quarter. You earned the right to go scream off the field. When you win in Buffalo, where if Josh Allen makes a decent throw, you lose, and then you only scored 13 points in the game or whatever the hell it was. Yeah, people aren't going to think that what are you yelling for? You won a game that you should have lost, and the offense sucked, and you're the offense guy. So I do think that Ben Johnson's going to get a little more leeway in the national media aspect. I think part of it's too is the general, not love of the Eagles, but I do also think that
The thing is
the
though, this I'm gonna this
differences
is I
matter.
mean this is before your time. This is when I've really started focusing on football when it comes to like we'll call them
Mhm.
geniuses, offensive geniuses, right?
Mhm.
Do you know who the architect for the greatest show on turf Rams was?
Who was it?
His name was Mike Martz. The fact you don't know who that is kind of shows
It's not a
you,
name that wasn't familiar. Yeah.
right? So he, for like 3 or 4 years, Michael, this guy was considered the smartest offensive like coach in the NFL, and people were talking about him like he was going to be the next Bill Walsh. And he flamed out super quickly because he was a dick.
Okay, I get what you're getting. I mean, Kyle Shanahan's a pretty big prick, for
Yeah,
lack of a better word.
but he's been really good at calling offenses for a lot longer than Mike Martz.
That's what I'm
That's
saying. That's
why-
what I'm saying. Like, you don't have to be like the nicest guy in the world, but listen, we'll see. We will see. But
Because here's the thing: when you act like that, though, here's the thing: is like and the NFL too. His offense will get figured out at some point. Will it be happen next year? I don't know. 2 years from now, I don't know. Everyone gets figured out at some point. Look at Mike. Look at Mike McDaniel. The first year, his offense. Oh my God, this is he's going to revolutionize the NFL. Then I'm watching Tua take 25 seconds to process a throw, and he's calling like this like very vanilla offense. Part is Tua's fault, but like you know what I mean. It's not like another
no,
quarterback.
I get it. You got to adjust. You got to adapt. Listen. I just think we're on two different sides of this coin. I think you're not a big fan of Ben Johnson's antics and whatnot, and I have a little more leeway with it,
What
I
if he?
guess.
What if like he acts like a jerk to McVay? Do you think that's what everyone's going to turn on? Because McVay is very well liked.
I mean, I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But I just think that if Ben Johnson goes and outduels McVay next week and plays great and is like kind of a dick somehow, like I don't know, people might respect it because when you're good, when you're succeeding, when you're winning, all that stuff's cool. All the like you said, Mike McDaniel, all the little quips that he had, and the "I wish it were colder" shirt, and the capris, and the sunglasses, and all that sort of stuff. All that stuff's cool. All that stuff's fun when you're good, but when you're not good, and when you're struggling, and the team blows, now it's like couldn't imagine being a professional athlete, and you got to listen to this guy say some stupid joke that he's whatever. Like, you know what I mean? So as long as you're winning, all this stuff's gonna fly. That's why, you know, people prey on Sirianni's downfall because then it's like you bring up his way of acting like an asshole and you lost. People may get sick of it. I think the Bears are very polarizing in terms of the NFL fan base, but we'll see, man. I'll be honest. I'm pulling for the Bears out of the NFC without a doubt in my mind. Even lesser of the four evils and more that like I would think it's
Oh
cool to
boy.
see. I'd be
I
happy
have
to see it.
semi-breaking news.
What do you got?
Josina Anderson. A leaked source said Cliff Kingsbury, a runner-up when the team hired Kellen Moore, and Kevin Stefanski will, quote, get a real look for the Eagles' offensive coordinator position, among other options, assuming head coach signings don't supersede the team's vacancy.
All right, there you go. So first little inkling out.
I don't want Cliff, by the way.
Yeah, no, neither do I. Let's get into Sunday. Before the Eagles game on Sunday, we had the pleasure of watching the Jacksonville Jaguars take on the Buffalo Bills. And what we kind of laid out that can't happen for the Jags is exactly how the game started. Trevor Lawrence did not play well, reverted to a lot of his bad tendencies, and the Bills were able to run the ball pretty decently and, at least early in the game was able to just kind of keep it gritty and keep it muddy. And when a game is like that, the team that usually wins is the team with the better quarterback. And that's kind of what happened Sunday afternoon, where it got tight, it got gross, and Josh Allen made more plays than Trevor Lawrence down the stretch. I hate to simplify things like that, but ultimately that's what it was. Josh Allen made the big throws. Josh Allen made the big runs. Josh Allen wasn't short of yards to gain, and Trevor Lawrence did get his shin down before he got the first down on fourth down. He did throw a bad interception that got tipped and picked when he may have had a guy open down the field. He did throw other bad interceptions. Like, he just was not good, and he was playing so good for a long stretch of time, and he just kind of reverted back to some of the issues.
Yeah, and honestly, Michael, you look at like the Jags as an offense. Liam Cohen, I think, probably the coach of the year. Safe to say.
No, I wouldn't say that, but I do think he did a great job. I think he'll be considered, but I do think that Vrabel's probably getting that,
Vrabel
or Ben Johnson, I guess.
Yeah, Ben Johnson
or Mike McDonald too. Like there's options.
Yeah, there's four guys that are well deserved.
It was a pretty good. It was one of the more competitive coach of the year.
Yeah, well,
races we've seen.
I'm just saying that because
regardless, Liam Cohen's great.
For a first year head coach, he basically was what he did was almost unprecedented this year.
Right.
So because the last coach that did it, I think, was George Seifert, and he inherited a Super Bowl winning roster.
Right.
Where Liam Cohen inherited dog crap.
Yeah. Yeah, no, bad quarterback play.
Yeah, Michael, you're right. I mean, we both agree to it. If Trevor Lawrence did not play like he did the previous 5-6 weeks, they weren't going to win. And I mean, I don't know. When you look at like the playoffs, you look at like elite quarterbacks, and you look at like above average quarterbacks. That's what Trevor Lawrence is. He's an above average quarterback, right?
Yeah, I think
in a pressure situation, the elite quarterback usually outperforms the above average quarterback, and then the elite quarterback, even if his team isn't as good overall as the other quarterback, finds a way to win somehow, right?
Yeah. This Bills win was very, very Chiefsy. It was very, very Chiefsy.
That's a very good way to put it. I would say like they score the go ahead touchdown. The Jags still have time left to go tie the game.
Plenty of time, so much time.
And then he just panics and then throws, and to me, it's like, I don't know, man. It's like Josh Allen, I think, is kind of like maybe this generation's like a John Elway, or before he won Super Bowls, or even like a Donovan McNabb, a guy that really helps carry a lot of his offense in different certain ways. And, you know, he's got the ability to take over a game, which he certainly did. Kudos to them because James Cook did not play well. And if you followed the Bills this year, when James Cook either did not get the ball enough or did not play well because they couldn't get rushing lanes, they would lose every single time.
Yeah, no, this was definitely like you're always going to be encouraged after winning a playoff game, but I don't know. I think when you're a Bills fan, it's not that like strategy's out the window, but it's like they're in a spot where they're just going to need to win by any means necessary. If that means a game like this where it's gritty and it's like lower scoring and you know, you're able to pull it out because your quarterback's great. Like that's what it's going to have to be. Like,
yeah, this was a very like early. If you want to look at it, like early 2000s Eagles or like 2000s Eagles, Michael. Like, if you wonder what that was like, it's basically the Buffalo Bills. I got the box score from this game pulled up. The Bills had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9 different guys catch a pass.
Yeah, that's. I mean, we've seen a lot of comparisons where, not getting to a Super Bowl and the most points, most wins in certain stretches, and the early 2000s Eagles are on there, while the Buffalo Bills like live on that list. This era of Josh Allen football. So, yeah, it was a lot of getting the ball out quick, getting the ball spread around to everybody. Like, if there is a benefit from not having a true number one receiver, it's that the defense doesn't doesn't key in on anybody specifically, so you can catch them off guard by playing well with anybody. And you saw that Brandon Cooks was involved, Khalil Shakir was involved, and it got them a nice win. Definitely got them a nice win. And they'll be on to play the Denver Broncos, who had the bye in the AFC.
Rematch of a playoff game wild card last year.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting one. Another, definite quarterback disparity in skill. So we'll talk about that later this weekend. But then we had Sunday night. So after the Eagles' awful defeat, this game was taking place, and we didn't miss much because this game was ugly. Both teams' defenses were really flexing their muscles, and both teams' quarterbacks were struggling early, without a doubt. But Drake May was able to get things together and put together enough drives while Justin Herbert
if you're going to have
absolutely horribly.
A quarterback play in his first ever career playoff game, if you're the Patriots, don't you feel like, aren't you like, is this like the perfect scenario where he struggled, but the defense played well enough where it wasn't an issue and he figured it out at the end where you're like, okay, now you've, seen what it's like for the first time. Now you know how to like improve on mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the best thing that you can take away is that you won the game and that Drake May showed enough flashes like he did in the beginning of the season last year, where it's like, okay, I know there's a great quarterback in there. I know that he can adjust to a big playoff moment. It's just going to take maybe a little bit of time. And it took most of that game, but you didn't need much to win that game. And that's ultimately what matters at times. You just got to win, and you don't need much at all the way that Justin Herbert played that game. It's a shame. I'm a huge Herbert supporter. High belief he's a great quarterback, but the fact of the matter is you do have to evaluate the playoffs when you're talking about quarterbacks. He's got great regular season stuff, great regular season film, but this is once again,
I need to see him with a competent O-line and competent weapons.
Listen, I don't disagree. I'm not going to say he's a playoff choker or whatever, but like there were times where he did have time to throw and receivers are running open and he's just not seeing them and not pulling the trigger. And like that's not what you see from Herbert in the regular season. Herbert will never miss a guy that's open in the regular season, and he'll throw guys open because he's throwing with conviction, with confidence.
It definitely, dude, it felt like to me
seeing ghosts. It felt like he was seeing ghosts.
When teams have these like big regular season wins, later in the year and they act like they won the Super Bowl afterwards.
Yeah.
I sound so salty, but when they beat the Eagles in overtime, and it was like they're all
Definitely salty.
and you're just like, okay, that's a regular season win. Like when the Eagles beat the Giants in the Miracle of the Meadowlands, that the season ended right there basically because they never like got past it.
Sure.
And I feel like especially with Herbo, like I think that offense, like 3 points is pathetic in a playoff game.
It's pathetic, man. Like he played
I'm
like
sorry,
shit.
that's pathetic. Like we're like literally pissing and moaning about the Eagles. They scored 19 points. If they scored 19 points in this game, Michael, they win.
Yeah, that's definitely pretty bizarre. But it was really something. Like he just was not good, and I'm definitely coming away a little more encouraged with the Patriots defense than I had felt previous. I know that Chargers their lines banged up, weapons aren't spectacular, but they're going against a Houston Texans team where, newsflash, the offense is not that good. The quarterback, maybe didn't play as bad as Herbert did, but isn't as good as Herbert is. And, outside
better
of
puss
the receiving
quarterback
room
than
is
Herbert
probably,
is, despite playing with an equally dog crap offensive line.
yeah, the offensive line's pretty much just as bad. I would favor the Texans receivers mostly just because of Nico Collins, but guess who has a concussion is definitely not going to be playing this week. So, yeah, unless they just throw him out there. But there was no way. Like he stood up and did not know where he was after he was concussed and had to get held around the waist to walk off the field because he was going to like tip over. So I'd be shocked if Nico Collins plays. So
That's a big
that
loss,
puts
man.
that
That's
puts the
brutal.
receiving core probably worse than what the Chargers have to offer. So, well, again, we'll talk about these games more Saturday, but Patriots Texans is definitely going to be an interesting one because I think both teams' offenses are going to struggle to put up points. And when a game gets dicey like that, usually, listen, we favor the better quarterback, but maybe this time the better defense is enough. We'll see. We will see, though.
We will see. I will say this. The thing about the Patriots, though, is look, Drake May, more turnovers than touchdowns. Is that the first time since like all season that happened? Like he should be the MVP. Like the glazing of Stafford barely beating the Panthers,
Mm-hmm.
especially Tony Romo, where is like, oh my god, like talking about the Rams like they were the underdogs in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Despite the
Well, I
fact,
mean, Romo is awful, so I don't want to talk about Romo. I saw clips; it was pissing me off, dude. Like he is horrible, and it's actually like he sounds almost senile at times, and
you
he's
think
like
CTE?
he's like no, he's just like overly quirky. Like he's every not to like get on your generation, but like the quirky millennial in like a derogatory way is how I feel about Tony Romo, where he's like, maybe the Jags are the favorites for today, but they're not, so they're the overdog. Like, what was he talking about before the game, dude? It was ridiculous. He's like, usually I have a prediction, but I know this football stuff pretty well, but I don't know who's going to the Super Bowl. And it's like, oh my god. So, anyways, not happy with Tony
Yeah,
Romo's performance.
super cringe. Yes.
Yeah, I was very uncomfortable.
All right. Speaking of cringing, cringing to avoid getting bludgeoned to death was Aaron Rodgers last night against the Houston Texans defense. Michael, we've been talking about how great this defense has been all season long, and
Texans.
I did not see anything last night to prove us wrong.
Yeah, no, it was a ravaging. Rodgers did this thing with Metcalf that like he usually only did with like the mid receivers that he played with. To do it to your star, I think, is a ballsy decision. DK Metcalf has a pretty horrible drop, and like it was a bad drop. It was a bad time for the drop. It was not good, and valid to be frustrated. But it's his first game and over got suspended for 2 games. He didn't throw to him after like that drop, he didn't have a target from late in the first quarter all the way until the fourth quarter. And like, I'm sorry, man. There's no way
Yeah,
that can
it
happen.
is pure insanity. I got the box score pulled up right here.
Mhm.
DK Metcalf, 2 catches, 42 yards on 5 targets. Marquez Valdez Scantling, 3 catches, 26 yards on 5 targets. Calvin Austin, 3 catches, 8 yards on 6 targets.
Yeah, it's just the targets were not there for Metcalf, and they were early. It was like, let's get
Yeah,
him
and
oiled
and,
up, let's get
and
him in
look,
there.
man, Tomlin stepped down. It's finally happened. The Steelers will welcome their 4th head coach in the last 64 years, which is insane to think about.
Mhm.
But yeah, he stepped down today. Mike Tomlin stepped
Yeah,
down.
pretty crazy, man. It's an end of an era for sure when you look at Harbaugh and Tomlin going in the same offseason. That's definitely, I mean, that's my childhood
Maybe
right
they had
there,
a
you know.
pact.
That'd be kind of funny if they did. For guys that I think are a little corny and annoying or whatever, I think that'd be kind of funny. But yeah, it was definitely time. Uh, we always giggled at the thought of like, oh, Kyle Shanahan is on the Andy Reid path, and like maybe he is. I really hope that take works out long term. Um, but this was definitely like the end of Eagles Andy Reid tenure for both John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin, where it was like, it is just time. Like the results aren't that brutal, but they're not what they used to be. And it's just the message isn't getting through anymore. We need a new voice. We need to shake things up. We just can't keep doing this. And that usually lasts like at least 12 years when you have to have those conversations. And these guys both were there for what, 18 plus years. So really, really long tenures. They won a lot of games, had a lot of good games against each other. Definitely an end of an era in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, I think they screwed up by not trading TJ Watt, like by not trading all their good veterans and by trying to push their chips in. Maybe internally they thought this was Tomlin's last year, considering he stepped down. But it just feels like they shot themselves in the foot in terms of actually building out a good team for the future by making some of the decisions that they made. And like, you still don't have a quarterback. You don't like your 2 best defensive players are like 1,000 years old, and one is like got health issues, and it's not good. They don't have a lot of good offensive infrastructure. Like the running back room is like so. It's just not like future oriented. I think the offensive
Yeah,
line is
Keelan
not great.
Johnson fumbled that kickoff, and he was basically perma-benched
He's
the
benched the
entire
whole
season.
season. And listen, Gainwell played great. Jalen Warren had a nice year, but you look at the receiver room, there's really nothing there of promise for the future. You look at the running back room, not like that long term of future. The offensive line is like okay, and the defense outside of the front seven, which is occupied by again Cam Hayward, who is so old, and TJ Watt, who is slowly declining, and like Patrick Queen, and this is that's kind of it. Jalen Ramsey had a
Yeah,
nice,
I saw that
nice
was ridiculous. Someone said was Aaron Rodgers' last play really going to be that pick six? I'm like, yeah,
Who cares,
no.
man? Like he needs to like that's
Like,
burying the lead. Like
Tom
they had
Brady's
a 42-year-old
last
quarterback.
game was on the 8-9 Tampa Bay Buccaneers losing to the Dallas
Getting
Cowboys.
spanked
The,
by the Dallas
the team
Cowboys at
getting
home.
spanked by the team that has the longest NFC championship drought right
Yeah,
now in the NFL.
yeah. I mean,
So
absolutely.
I think
You do kind of go out sad sometimes.
so. Agreed. I think when you hang around way too long, this is the results of it. So
Yeah, and
just
like Rodgers showed that he could be like an okay quarterback, but any sort of pressure, he's run it for his life.
Philip Rivers went out, costing me
Playoff loss to the
cost.
Bills. Remember 2020, first retiring.
I meant Philip Rivers coming out of retirement this year, and
Yeah, that
like
too.
like costing me my winning the fantasy championship. You know, by
Regardless,
just being
not salty or anything.
dog crap. You know.
Anyways,
Yeah. Anyway.
let's get into the Texans. The Texans. Defense is awesome, man. It's ferocious. It's tough. It's nasty. It creates turnovers. It is absolutely a Super Bowl
I
caliber
also want to
defense.
just talk about how like Woody Marks, who old rookie, right? He's a 25-year-old rookie,
Mm-hmm.
which I mean,
For NFL standards, it's definitely a red flag.
that is he was a 4th-round pick this year of the Texans. Like, listen, the Texans are great at drafting, by the way. I'm sure, as you're well aware of.
Right.
I mean, he didn't really have like a great start to the year, but dude, it does feel like if the Texans can find an identity being able to run the ball and play defense and control clock, they could be a massive problem in these playoffs.
Yeah, not having Nico Collins likely is really, I think, detrimental for them because
I
he's such a
agree.
big play threat. And like this Texans offense, like CJ Stroud played like pretty shit on Monday. He has these moments where he's feeling a little Mahomey and he like kind of evades the pressure, gets out of the pocket, trying to expand a play. And like instead of ever setting his feet or like driving a ball, he just kind of floats the ball out there. He flicks the ball and it's just inaccurate. Like he had the guy he tried to throw it to on the one interception by like in the red zone. He just flicked it and threw it like 3 yards behind the receiver. And it's like, dude, what are you? And like he had Nico Collins earlier that he just sailed to throw on.
Well, dude, remember
I like CJ Stroud, but he
I like
definitely
CJ Stroud
has
too.
regressed
But Michael,
and
I do
has some
feel
big
like the
problems.
biggest knock that teams had on Stroud when he was coming into the draft process was like, this guy's throwing all of his receivers are all Americans. So they can adjust when he makes a bad throw. So what's going to happen in the NFL when he's going to be playing not with 4 Pro Bowl wide receivers?
I mean, you saw his best season was when the receiving core was at its best and its healthiest, but like he still was just better too. Like he was just a better looking quarterback. Where like
Well, the offensive line could like
the
actually
offensive line got a
block
lot worse too. So like
where he's
the
not.
pocket poise
That's the
isn't
big
as
dude. That's a
good.
big deal though, because not just for the pass blocking, but dude, when you're a quarterback and you get sacked a bazillion times,
Yep.
it could definitely rattle you. I mean, I look at Darnold.
No, listen, you're right, man. Because Stroud, his rookie year, it was like he stood in there and took hits and would deliver throws with pressure around him, and it was awesome. But yeah, man, you get your you know your brains rocked, I guess, for
Well,
not
dude, it's what they
not
say
cussing. It
in
makes you lose your
MMA and
poise.
what they say in MMA and boxing is like once a guy gets knocked out, it's like I say the career ends, but like you see like almost like this decline where it's like, oh my god, is it going to happen again?
Yeah, no, and you saw that with Stroud all year where he just wasn't playing well under pressure with pressure. And when your offensive line isn't good
Well,
with this sort of
I
team
don't think
build,
he's
if you're
so. I
better
don't
under
think so.
pressure,
Actually, I'm not saying he's like a coward or anything like that.
it's
That's
not a
not what I'm
coward,
saying.
but you just get rattled. Like it's just
I think he's
you're
being
tired of
coached.
taking the
I think
hits.
he's trying to be coached to get the ball out fast because they know the O line isn't good, and I don't think he's like a Lamar, where Lamar can get the ball out quick. Lamar gets the ball out quick. Josh Allen gets the ball out quick. Matthew Stafford, because he was brutalized for most of his career, Detroit knows how to get the ball out quick.
Mhm.
And because I believe their offensive coordinator is like a Rams guy.
Yeah.
Right. And like, hey, man, you look at the Rams, like McVay's offenses have always had good receivers. You don't have that in Houston without just besides Nico. And like,
Yeah.
easier said than done is what I'm
I mean,
is what I'm saying.
when pressured, you know what? Hold on. I'm going to play with a little. Let me do 50. Is that a fine number? Okay. So in the NFL, CJ Stroud ranked, you know what? Not as bad. 12th in total EPA under pressure. Honestly, I have to say I'm a little more impressed than what it used to be. But let's I want to, just for the sake of it, compare it to his rookie year. Let's just see. CJ Stroud. Huh. Okay. Maybe I'm wrong in my assessment. It's just more of a feel. But he does just look like he's not as comfortable back there at times and isn't making the big throws as consistently. And when he does make the big throws, because we see them, he does make them pretty much every week. That usually turns the tide. It's like, here's your defensive slugfest, and you score because your defense got a turnover and the game's still close, and then you hit the big splash offensive play, and then another turnover happens, and all of a sudden you're getting blown out. And that's pretty much what happened on Monday night to an extent. And I think that's got to be the Texans' formula. I'm really intrigued for this matchup against the Patriots. I think their defense can do a good job at slowing down Drake May, because they've slowed down pretty much every other elite quarterback they played this year. So like, they clearly got it in them to do it.
Wouldn't it be
It's just a matter
something
of the
if,
offense to
dude,
do
I know
enough.
the MVP hasn't been decided yet, but
Well, it
dude,
has been decided, right? It's been voted
Stafford?
on, correct? No, but isn't it like, aren't the votes in, is what I'm saying?
Oh, I don't know. Um, like you just brought up your comp earlier with the Rams and like the Rams Bears. Like, oh, what if the Bears just blow out the Rams?
Yeah.
And then like this game, what if Drake May finds a way to stop the number one ranked defense in the NFL that has just befuddled teams for the last 2.5 months,
Mm-hmm.
figures out their defense,
Yeah.
and then Stafford gets the MVP after getting embarrassed by the Chicago Bears. And then Drake May and the Patriots find a way. I mean, not to get back on the Patriots, but like it felt so Brady-ish to me, where they win a playoff game 16-3. Doesn't that scream like
I mean, that
Belichick
screams like
Brady?
2001 Brady. Like, yeah, sure.
Where you're like, this is like an ugly box score, and it's like, because there were games where they beat the Colts, and it was like 30, it was like 24 to like 9, like these ugly scores, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the Patriots defense played well. So like, this game could be a game of, it's great offense versus great defense. And usually in more recent memory, the great offense has kind of pulled out. It used to be the great defense would win those matchups, but the offense kind of has turned the tide. The defense could just be too good. It could just be too good. But Drake May has excelled all year under pressure on third down. Like the big downs in the games where the Texans make you pay, it's the times he's excelled. So it'll be a fun matchup. So we will talk about the games, but to lay out the table, on Saturday afternoon at 4:30, we will have the Buffalo Bills heading over to Denver to take on the Broncos. And then Saturday night at 8 p.m., we will have a rematch, a third game between the San Francisco 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks out at Lumen Field in Seattle. Then Sunday afternoon at 3 p.m., we will have the Houston Texans heading up to Foxborough to take on the New England Patriots. And at 6:30 at Sunday evening, we will have Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, and the Los Angeles Rams heading over to the Windy City to take on Caleb Williams, Ben Johnson, Colston Loveland, and the Chicago Bears. So, divisional weekend's one of my favorites. I'm excited to talk about it this weekend, even
Yes.
without the Eagles. This is probably the most stable I've handled an Eagles loss in the playoffs in a long time.
Well, you're growing up. Michael, you're growing up. You're getting older.
Yeah, man.
You've been
Nice.
you've now been disappointed enough where now you have the thought process of, This isn't even like my top 5 Eagle losses I've seen.
Not even close. Not even close. It's frustrating potentially, but that's more seasonally. Regardless, it's over. But yeah, that will do it for our show tonight, and we'll see you guys this weekend.
See you this weekend, guys.
We are part of the Fired Up Sports Network of shows. Please check out other Fired Up Sports Network podcasts like the P-Lot Pod, Water Cooler Talk, Bell Smashers, Philly Sports Love and Pain, Drunk on Broad, Beer Battered Sports, and the Fired Up Sports Show, which are available on all major podcasting hosting sites and social media. Also, check out Mark Ramos' Roundup on firedupsports.com, which breaks down the happenings going on with all your favorite local teams.